Post Malone has reached settlement right on the eve of trial. He reached settlement with a musician who's claiming that he helped to create Post Malone's hit song, Circles. And so, of course, settlement has now ended the contentious lawsuit. But, again, the timing of this is really important because at this point, guys, I'm telling you, both sides have accrued hundreds of thousands of dollars of attorney's fees. So the
Wow.
fact that it gets this
Wow.
far along and then they settle, great. But the question comes up, who's paying those attorney's fees? But let's move back. Tyler Arms sued in 2020 over the Circle song, and he goes, Post Malone and him co-wrote it. Okay, and they're
Hmm.
like, we were pulling an all-nighter. I was in the session with him, and then he just refused to give me credit, right? So, we hear this a lot for people who happen to be in the studio, and then it's interesting because someone will be like, in this case, Post Malone, you didn't do either anything or you didn't do very much. So then someone gets upset because even if they only contributed a small amount, they're entitled to something and they do have copyright, likely in the song. So in any case,
Yeah.
before the jury had been actually, selected and before they started the trial, there was settlement. So what do you think about this?
I think it's actually pretty interesting, and we've been covering a lot. We cover these kind of cases and things like this on this channel all the time, and we've been seeing a lot of settlements happening, which we kind of say doesn't mean that they're aware of something, but they're just they're trying to take care of it. But they're claiming Armes. I'm not exactly sure how to say his name either. But he was like I wrote helped write the chords, the bass line, the guitar. From what I understand, it was Post Malone was saying, he really didn't do that too much. He did a little bit. They tried to offer him 5% of publishing of it. And that Tyler was just like, nope. I'm not
Well,
look.
let's talk about that for a sec. What do you think about 5% of publishing? So, if he did what he's saying, which is he helped write some of the chords on a keyboard and he provided input on the guitar and bass line. Okay. So, if you did all of those things on an artist song and then the artist came back and said, well, I'll give you 5% of publishing, what do you think of that?
It depends where I'm at in my career, how much confidence I have in myself. Now, this guy has also produced for Lil Baby. He did the "Forget That" song as well, or he co-wrote some for that as well. So this isn't his first time working with a major artist, and he had some success himself. But I would say, if I'm writing, contributing, I would definitely want more than the 5% on the publishing. But we kind of heard in the case that we just talked about with the weekend for the "Call Out My Name" song, where his team member got a whole. That was a different situation, but his team member got the song and just like, let's just tell him that we wrote it, so we can just kind of, you know what I mean? Like, there's this whole like, you should just be grateful that the weekend is kind of going to touch your song or kind of do
Right. So,
something.
in
Let's
this
just say,
case, Post
but in this
Malone,
case,
you
he was
should
in
just be
there. You should be
grateful.
grateful that you have a song that you're going to be able to, this song is huge. Like, you can't go into a grocery store without
What
hearing
was it? It was
"Circles."
a top 100 for like 3 weeks.
It's huge. It's a huge song.
Typically, Post Malone's label is going to own the master, so it's going to own the actual recorded song. So all that's left over is the publishing. And so if you're someone that really contributed to the song, you weren't paid. Okay, that's the other
Yeah.
thing that we don't know. As far as him demanding, if you have made tens of thousands of dollars off of the song and, whatever else happens with it, if it gets placements, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in TV and film. Either way, there's going to be a lot of money coming in from this song. And so 5% of publishing, it's kind of
And
chump change. So I
and
can
and
understand why he would say, I don't think so.
and Post Malone's, manager was like, it's take it or leave it. It's 5% or just like nothing. And like, Tyler wants his credit. He wants his, that's a big deal for this guy to be a part of that. That's gonna if he's especially if it's documented that he's getting some writing credit, that's gonna open the doors to his career. Just his price is going to be able to go up because now you can go look on Wikipedia or just all the different song facts and stuff. BMI,
And
you
that's
can
what he
see it.
alleged in his complaint. He goes, I've been damaged because
Absolutely.
of all of the new business and opportunity that would have come as a result of me getting the credit
Huge
that I
song.
deserved. And here's the thing, it's not uncommon that everyone gets credit on a particular song, right? Have we ever heard of a Beyonce song that has like 12 different
Right.
producers on
Right.
it? And it's very complicated. Everyone gets their amounts diluted. And I mean, it
And he
is
was
what
in
it is.
And this was a situation where, we've seen cases. I believe even Cisco, if you watch that Thong Song documentary, I believe that the situation happened in there where this was a situation where Tyler was invited to do a writing session. They're like, "Oh, cool, like let's do this." So there was an invited session. But you have those situations where there's just people in the studio and they just might want somebody might walk around and go, "Hey, call it the Thong Song" or something like that, and you called it that, not even thinking anything of it, and now that guy is just, or just somebody's just in a room, and they're just claiming they take a I came up with a baseline idea for it, and they may or may not have had anything to do with it.
Yeah, and I can't tell you, there are countless stories and lawsuits where it was just that scenario. Someone was in the room and someone dropped a bucket, and the bucket went clang, and it was picked up on the recording, which ended up being in the final song. And now someone has copyright claims and likely ownership in the song, and it's a mess. So, Chris, I love what you're saying, right? It doesn't matter who it is, right? You need to get a contract written by a trusted attorney. Like at this point, Post Malone, you're telling me you don't have a standard template and be like, "Hey, John's in the studio with me. I'm going to have you sign this thing," even if you just want to protect yourself and not find yourself in this situation. Now, I'll tell you why they don't do it. They don't do it because at the point that
It's
John
admitting,
or
right?
Tyler at this point, did something on the song and Post Malone's like, "Hey, I need you to sign this giving me full ownership." At that point, he'd be like, "No." But unfortunately,
Well,
they deal with it
so
after the fact.
is there things, because I personally have never come across this, because it's like, when you're, especially when you're like, "Oh yeah, no, let's just come over, let's mess around in the studio, let's see what happens, we don't know if anything's going to come from, let's just vibe out," because artists, they don't really want to talk business, they don't want to do that kind of stuff, they just want to vibe out and just see what they can do together. Like, should artists have something, or end producers have something that's just an acknowledgement agreement? You acknowledge that we are sitting here working on stuff, we don't know if anything's going to come of it, but you're acknowledging that we're vibing out together. Like, so it's like, it's not like a hard contract, we're not talking ownership, we're not talking about what the song is, we're just both acknowledging that we're in the same room and we're writing stuff and something might come of this.
Well, you know what that's called? That's a split sheet. And I kind of I tell artists, I'm like, split sheets are great because as you're in it and you're doing something, you need something quick, you're gonna have a split sheet that says John and Jerry and Jane all wrote the song, and this is kind of what we did. So it's a little summary, but it's not a full-length contract. You need a proper contract, but it's something. Anything less than that would be maybe a deal memo, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe I don't know, because it's just because you don't want to kill a vibe, and especially like if you're okay, if you're a bigger artist and you're working with a more unknown person, or somebody that you're giving an opportunity, it's incredibly intimidating for that person that you're giving an opportunity to, and not knowing what they should be doing, what's okay, just getting steamrolled over, and that's honestly, that's like why labels look for so looks for green talent, or people that don't know a lot about the business, and why other producers would look for other producers to take under the wing that are just don't know anything about the business to exploit. It's an exploitive business. But I don't know, I just think there should be something to help
Yeah,
some of
it's
these
called an
situations.
email. It's called an email, guys. At a minimum, you'd be like, "Hey, Malone, it was great working with you on that circle song. Let me know what happens." So you can at least create some kind of documentation of what happened, because at the end of the day,
Closed sessions.
people aren't going to want to sit down and do long form contracts often, and so they don't. But what you can do to better protect yourself is to document it through text messages, through emails, and so when it comes time for you to actually enforce, you have the evidence of what happened.